Among Ibn Arabi's works in libraries worldwide, one text exists in 70 manuscript copies under multiple identities. The Book of Journey in Reality, the Book of Retreat, and its primary title, Treatise on the Illuminations, What is Bestowed upon the Practitioner of Retreat from the Hidden Mysteries. You might know this work by its English publication title, Journey to the Lord of Power. This manuscript history tells its own story. What began in 1204 as one mystic's response to a question about spiritual retreat became something that required careful preservation under various protective titles. But protective from what? The answer lies in what Ibn Arabi actually wrote. A systematic manual for consciousness exploration, mapping territories that require careful preparation to navigate safely. Ibn Arabi begins, I shall answer your question, O noble friend and intimate companion, concerning the journey to the Lord of Power and the arrival in his presence, and the return through him, from him to his creation, without separation. Someone had asked him about Khalwa, spiritual retreat. Ibn Arabi's response reveals someone who had mapped these territories systematically, providing specific warnings, precise instructions, and detailed phenomenological descriptions. Certainly, there is nothing in existence except God Most High, His attributes and His actions. Everything is He, and of Him, and from Him, and to Him. If He were to be veiled from the world for the blink of an eye, the world would vanish at one stroke. It only remains through His preserving and watching over it. However, His appearance in His light is so intense that it overpowers our perceptions, so that we call His manifestation a veil. Notice how Ibn Arabi establishes his metaphysical framework immediately. Existence is fundamentally unified, but that unity is so overwhelming it appears as separation to ordinary consciousness. For God's sake, he writes, do not enter retreat until you know what your station is and know your strength in respect to the power of imagination. For if your imagination rules you, then there is no road to retreat except by the hand of the Sheikh who is discriminating and aware. Ibn Arabi understood that consciousness exploration carries real psychological risks. Before describing the actual journey, Ibn Arabi provides systematic warnings about preparation. Know, O noble brother, that while the paths are many, the way of truth is single. The seekers of the way of truth are individuals. So, although the way of truth is one, the aspects it presents vary with the varying conditions of its seekers. With the balance or imbalance of the seeker's constitution, the persistence or absence of his motivation, the strength or weakness of his spiritual nature, the straightness or deviation of his aspiration, the health or illness of his relation to his goal. He's describing what contemporary researchers might call individual differences in response to consciousness-altering practices. Constitutional factors matter. Psychological preparation matters. Motivation and spiritual maturity matter. Some seekers possess all of the favorable characteristics, while others possess only some. Thus, we see that the seeker's constitution, for instance, may be a hindrance, while his spiritual striving may be noble and good. And this principle applies in all cases. Ibn Arabi had observed that consciousness exploration affects people differently based on their psychological and spiritual readiness. Ibn Arabi grounds his methodology in the foundational Islamic account of the Prophet Muhammad's night journey, the Isra wa Mi'raj. But he treats it as establishing a protocol rather than celebrating a unique miracle. A revealing tradition illuminates this approach. Abu Jahl, one of Muhammad's opponents, challenged the Prophet after hearing reports of his celestial journey. "Lift 1 foot off the ground," he demanded. The Prophet complied. "Now lift the other," Abu Jahl continued. "I cannot," Muhammad replied. How can you, who cannot lift both feet from the earth, claim to have reached the highest heaven? The Prophet's response clarifies everything. "I didn't say I went. I said I was taken." This exchange reveals Ibn Arabi's essential insight. Consciousness exploration doesn't involve traveling through external space. Instead, it involves your experiencing the transformation of perception itself. The practitioner doesn't go anywhere. Awareness shifts to accommodate different levels of reality. Ibn Arabi explains. As Abdul Karim Jili points out in his commentary, the gift of this ascension, though given without preparation to the prophets, must be earned by the saints. Its price is the perfection of all the interior and exterior arts of Islam. Ibn Arabi's instructions begin with systematic preparation. Your first duty is to search for the knowledge which establishes your ablution and prayer, your fasting and reverence. You are not obliged to seek out more than this. This is the first door of the journey. Then work, then moral heedfulness, then asceticism, then trust. Notice the progression. Legal knowledge first, then practice, then ethical refinement, then detachment. Only then trust, and only in trust's early stages do what he calls miraculous signs appear. Crossing the earth, walking on water, traversing the air, and being fed by the universe. But then come the warnings. Beware of people coming to see you and approaching you. For he who withdraws from the people does not open his door to their visits. And everyone who withdraws in his house and opens the door to people visiting him is a seeker of leadership and esteem, driven from the door of God Most High. And for someone like this, destruction is closer than the shoelace of his shoe. Ibn Arabi continues, for God's sake, protect yourself from the deceit of the ego in this station, for most of the world is destroyed by it. So shut your door against the world, and thus the door of your house will be between you and your people. Ibn Arabi had observed the psychological pitfalls, spiritual inflation, the subtle ego gratification that comes from being seen as special, the corruption of genuine retreat into spiritual theater. Ibn Arabi's core instruction centers on zikr, and occupy yourself with zikr, remembrance of God, with whatever sort of zikr you choose. The highest of them is the greatest name. It is your saying, Allah, Allah, and nothing beyond Allah. Protect yourself from the misfortunes of corrupt imaginings that distract you from remembrance. Be careful of your diet. It is better if your food be nourishing but devoid of animal fat. Beware of satiation and excessive hunger. Keep your constitution in balance, for if dryness is excessive, it leads to corrupt imaginings and long delirious ravings. Even diet affects consciousness states. Ibn Arabi had observed the relationship between physical constitution and spiritual experience. Then his crucial distinction. If there should be an influence which alters the constitution, and that is desirable, distinguish between angelic and demonic spiritual influences by what you find in yourself when they come to an end. That is, if the influence is angelic, it is followed by coolness and bliss. You will not be aware of any pain, you will not undergo any alteration of form, and the influence leaves knowledge. But if it is demonic, physical disorientation, pain and distress, bewilderment and vileness ensue, and it leaves mental disorder. This represents careful phenomenological observation. Ibn Arabi had documented the difference between beneficial and harmful altered states, providing specific criteria for distinguishing between them. Protect yourself and do not cease repeating the zikr in your heart until God drives the demonic influence from it. That is what the situation calls for. He continues with protection against a specific psychological phenomenon. Be sure that you articulate what you intend. Let your covenant at your entry into retreat be that there is nothing like unto God, and to each form that appears to you in retreat and says, I am God, say, far exalted be God above that, you are through God. Remember the form of what you saw. Turn your attention from it and occupy yourself with zikr continually. Ibn Arabi provides protection against the inflation that occurs when extraordinary states generate grandiose identifications. His method maintains discriminating awareness even during altered consciousness. Then Ibn Arabi describes what happens when the method works. The systematic unveiling of different levels of reality. Then Almighty God spreads before you the degrees of the kingdom as a test. This is appointed to you as an obligation. First, you will discover the secrets of the mineral world. You will become acquainted with the secret of every stone and its particular harmful and beneficial qualities. If you become enamored of this world, it will trap you, and you will be exiled from God. He will strip you of everything you held on to, and you will suffer loss. but the method provides escape routes. But if you let go and occupy yourself with zikr and take refuge at the side of the remembered, then he will free you from that mode and unveil the vegetal world. Every green thing will call out to you its harmful and beneficial qualities. Each level presents a temptation. Each unveiling offers powers or knowledge that can arrest development if the practitioner stops there. And if you do not stop, he will reveal the animal world to you. The animals will greet you and acquaint you with their harmful and beneficial qualities. Every sort of creature will acquaint you with its proclamation of majesty and praise. He maps an entire taxonomy of consciousness states, each with specific characteristics and dangers. Pay attention to this. If you become aware of all these worlds as engaged in the same zikr which occupies you, your perception is imaginational, not real. It is your own state which is called up for you in all existent things. But when you witness in them the varieties of their own zikr, that is sound perception. He distinguishes between projecting one's internal state onto phenomena versus actually perceiving autonomous realities. The progression continues through increasingly subtle levels. The infusion of the world of life force into lives, surface signs, the light of scattering sparks, until reaching the light of the ascendant stars and the form of universal order. At each stage, you witness directly the proper conduct for entering the divine presence, and the proper conduct for standing before the real, and the proper conduct for leaving his presence for creation. Ibn Arabi identifies a crucial transition point. And if you do not stop with this, he reveals to you the degrees of the qutb, the spiritual pole. Everything you witnessed before belongs to the world of the left hand. This station is the heart. When this world manifests to you, you know the reflections, the permanence of the permanent, the eternity of the eternal, the ordering of existence, how being flows through them. You are given the divine wisdoms and the power to preserve them and integrity to transmit them to the wise. And you are given the power of symbols and a view of the whole, authority over the veil and the unveiling. But the journey continues through the world of protective jealousy and wrath, then the world of divine jealousy and the unveiling of the real through his most perfect aspects, then the world of dignity and serenity, then the world of bewilderment and incapacity and the treasuries of works. This is the highest heaven. Until finally, and if you do not stop with this, he reveals to you the throne of the All-Merciful. Everything rests upon it. When you look into anything, you witness within it the totality of what you came to know and more. No knowledge or essential reality remains that you do not witness there. Ibn Arabi describes the final stages. Search for your own cause within everything. When you find your cause, you will know your destination and station, the limit of your spiritual degree, which divine name serves as your Lord, where lies your portion of gnosis and sainthood, the form of your unique specification, and then the ultimate test. If you do not pause here, you are erased, then withdrawn, then annihilated, then crushed, then obliterated. When the effects of eradication and what follows are terminated, you are affirmed, then made present, then made to remain, then gathered together, then assigned, and the robes of honor appropriate to your degree are conferred upon you, and they are many. But Ibn Arabi's deepest insight concerns what happens after the peak experience. Then you return to your path and examine all that you saw in different forms until you return to the world of your limited earthly senses. The journey's purpose involves transformation of how one relates to ordinary reality. He distinguishes between two types of practitioners. Among the returned ones, there is one who returns to himself alone. He is the descender. This sort of man is the true Gnostic among us. He returns to perfecting himself from other than the road which he traveled. Also among them is the one who is sent back to creation with the language of direction and guidance. He is the inheriting knower. Some return for further development, others return as teachers. Both represent successful completion. Ibn Arabi explains the key insight about prophets versus saints. Know that prophethood and sainthood both share in three things. 1, in knowledge without acquired learning. 2, in action by himma, the heart's intention, in what is customarily believed not possible except through the body, or that for which the body has no capacity. 3, in seeing the world of images in the sensory world. The two differ solely in their mode of addressing people. But he emphasizes the crucial difference. Do not suppose that the ascents of the saints equal the ascents of the prophets. Although the two classes share a common ground, the stations of divine realization, still the ascent of the prophets is through the fundamental light itself, while the ascent of the saints is through what is providentially granted by that light. Ibn Arabi's final methodological insight addresses the ultimate goal. Know that the certain, enduring, perfect sage is he who treats every condition and moment in the appropriate manner and does not confuse them. This is the state of Muhammad, for he was 2 bow-lengths distance or less from his Lord. And when he awoke among his people, and mentioned that to those who were present, the polytheists did not believe him, because no mark of the ascension appeared on him, and his appearance was the same as theirs. Ibn Arabi contrasts this with other prophets like Moses, who, when the mark appeared upon him, veiled himself, meaning Moses was visibly affected by divine encounter. Muhammad experienced the most profound mystical union, yet returned looking completely ordinary, able to navigate between extraordinary states and daily reality without confusion between levels. The ultimate accomplishment involves integrating extraordinary realization into ordinary functioning without confusion between levels. Every seeker inevitably will experience the impact of the states and the blending of the worlds with one another, but the development from this stage to the stage of divine wisdom appearing within the customary outward principles is incumbent upon him. Ibn Arabi concludes, and still the knower is thirsty continually forever and desire and awe cleave to him continually forever. And for the like of this, let the workers work, and for the like of this, let the contenders contend.